Hi guys, Mimi G here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a sew along to my new simplicity pattern number 3036. It's a really great pair of pants. It's like my work pant but still casual with an elastic waist, some pin tucks along the front. I love them. You can make them out of so many woven fabrics, even things like suiting, which is what it's intended for. I hope you love it. Let's get started. Now, if you're new to sewing or you just need a refresher course, you might want to check out my online sewing and design courses at sewitacademy.com. And we have a free mini course that gets delivered right to your inbox. The link is in the description box below. All right, guys, so we're working on my 3036 pattern. We're going to be making the pants. And just a quick reminder that in the back of the envelope, you always have a list of suggested fabrics. Also a list of notions, so whatever you're going to need. In this case, you're going to need some elastic. You're also going to need some twill tape for the drawstring, or you can buy ready-made drawstring. If you find something that matches your fabric, that would be great. Now let's go over all of the pattern pieces that you're going to need to cut. All right, so you're going to cut pattern piece number 5. This is our front casing. You're cutting one and you're cutting it on the fold. Make sure to transfer your button markings, also your stitching lines and any notches. Then you're also going to cut one on the fold of pattern piece number 6, and this is our back casing. You'll also want to make sure to transfer these 2 dots here. We're leaving an opening so that when we insert our elastic, it's easier. You're also going to cut out pattern piece number 3. This is the side front and pocket. You're going to cut 2. And then you're also going to cut out pattern piece number 2. This is our pocket facing, and you're going to cut 2. Depending on your fabric and the thickness of your fabric, you might want to cut this out of lining fabric. Then we also have pattern piece number 4. This is the back of our pants, and you're going to cut 2. Then you're going to cut out pattern piece number 1. You're also going to cut 2. This is the front of our pants. Make sure that you transfer your line for your pin tucks. I generally just make a little notch at the top of my line, and then I make a little notch also here at the bottom, and then I fold it and press it. It's just easier. But if you want to transfer the entire line, you can. Now, once we have all of our fabric cut, we can start sewing. So we're starting with our front pant leg, and as you can see, I have folded my fabric wrong side facing because the pin tuck is obviously on the right side. And I have pressed, making sure that I folded along the notch that I gave myself at the top, and then also that same notch here at the bottom at the hem. So if you transferred the entire line, you're going to fold along that line. I'm going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the folded edge. Let's head to the sewing machine and do that. Also, depending on your fabric, if it's too slippery, I like to go ahead and just pin a couple places along that fold, just so that if you have a fabric that doesn't crease very well, you might want to go ahead and pin it just so that you don't lose where that pin tuck is going to go. All right, once you have your pin tuck done, you can go ahead and fold it and give it a press. You're going to do the same exact thing with your other front. Okay, now still working on the front, we're going to go ahead and do our pocket. So grab your pocket lining, and you're going to go ahead and match up that notch. Okay, we're going to head to the sewing machine. We're going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then I want you to understitch, and then we're going to trim. Okay, I've gone ahead and pressed my pocket facing to the inside. I'm going to go ahead and grab my pocket, and with right sides facing, I'm going to pin along the pocket. Okay, now you're going to head to the sewing machine, and you're just going to stitch through both pockets. using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then you're going to go ahead and serge your seam allowance. Okay, as you can see, I have stitched all the way around my pocket and I serged my seam allowance. Now we're going to go ahead and pin along the top so that we can just keep it in place. So I'm just going to pin. And then we'll pin down here at the bottom as well. Okay, now go to your sewing machine. You're just gonna baste across the top and baste here to secure your pocket in place. Okay, now that we've done the pockets in our front, we're gonna go ahead and lay our back right sides facing. We're gonna sew together our inseam and our side seams. I'm gonna start first by pinning my inseams together. Okay, now let's go ahead and pin our side seams together so that while we're at the machine, we can just do them both. I'm gonna flip this over so it's closer to me. Okay, now go ahead and pin your other front and back together, same way along the inseam and the side seam. We're gonna head to the sewing machine and we're just gonna be doing one really long straight stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're gonna start at the hem and we're gonna work our way up. We're gonna be using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now you're gonna go ahead, turn your pant to the other side, and again, working from the hem, you're gonna sew your entire side seam just the way we did with the inseam. You're gonna finish off your other pant leg the same way. Okay, now that we have our side seams and our inseams sewn together, I've turned or have left one pant leg turned wrong side out, and I turned one pant leg right side out, and I'm gonna slip the one that's right side out inside of the one that is wrong side out so that right sides will be facing. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that inseam on both. I wanna make sure to align those seams, and I'm gonna go ahead and pin. Now I'm going to continue pinning along the entire crotch. Okay, once we have the entire crotch pinned together, we're going to go ahead and stitch starting on one side and working all the way over to the other side using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now that we have sewn our pant legs together, we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna grab our waistband. Okay, so before we stitch our waistbands together at the sides, if you plan on doing the drawstring, you need to go ahead and make your buttonholes now where you made your markings. You could also choose not to use a drawstring. For example, if you have a hard time finding a color that matches the fabric you're using, you can simply forego the drawstring and instead you'll do 3 rows of elastic versus 2 and a drawstring. So completely up to you. I am going to go ahead and make my buttonholes and then I'll come back and we'll stitch together our sides. Okay, so I've gone ahead and made my buttonholes. I also did open them. Now I'm going to lay my band over the back band over the front waistband, and I'm going to match up those notches on the side and pin. Okay, now you also have these dots that I had you transfer, so I'm going to make sure that I pin at the top of that dot. Now on the side that has the dot, what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top, we're going to back stitch and then stop and back stitch at the dot. You're going to break your yarn. We're going to leave this open here. Then you're going to start back up at this dot and stitch all the way down. On the other side, we have no dots, so we're just going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so as you can see, I went ahead and folded my band wrong sides together, right? And I have pressed it all the way around. Now we're gonna go ahead and pin this to our pants. Now I wanna make sure that my buttonholes are gonna be in the right place. So I'm gonna align that first, right? Making sure that the right side where you see my buttonholes is facing the right side of the pants. I'm gonna go ahead and pin my side seams. You'll also notice that that opening when flipped up should be to the inside, not on the outside. And let's go ahead and pin the other side seam. Okay, now you can go ahead and continue pinning until you have your entire waistband pinned to your pants. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and stitch all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So head over to your sewing machine, it's just a straight stitch. You're gonna stitch again all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so our waistband is on. Now we need to do the stitching lines for our elastic. So the way that I like to do it is I take my pattern piece, I'm gonna fold against that fold line, right? And then I just like to put it up against my finished waistband, making sure the folds are matching up. And then I literally just make a marking. So you can see 2 markings here. That's where my lines are supposed to be. And then I use either the line guides that are on my sewing machine, or I have my Mimi G seam guide ruler. And I use this at my machine. So I'll show you how I do that. You do have the option, obviously, of transferring the stitching lines directly onto your fabric. I just find this to be a little easier without having to do all of that marking. Okay, so I can tell that that first line is at 5/8 of an inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and align my fold along that 5/8 of an inch seam. If you don't have these markings on your sewing machine, then the guide can be really handy. So what you're gonna do is you have different markings on here. On the 5/8 of an inch, I'm gonna put my needle down through that little hole, put my presser foot down, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put my magnet there. Now you can go ahead and lift, remove your needle, and that'll be exactly where you need to be. And all you have to do is keep the pressed folded edge along your magnet, and we're gonna stitch all the way around. Okay, now we have this other marking here, so I'm gonna go ahead and move my magnet. So now the distance from this marking to this marking, you can go ahead and measure that out, and you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna find that measurement on the gauge, put your needle in, adjust the magnet. Now we're gonna go around one more time. You're gonna continue all the way around until you reach the other end. All right, so I have 2 pieces of elastic that I cut the measurement of my waist minus an inch. And then I also have my drawstring. I'm using a gray one, it's close enough to the green. So we're gonna go ahead and insert 1 elastic, and then you're going to do the same elastic, or the next elastic, the same exact way. So from the inside, we're gonna find the side seam that we had the openings, and we're gonna go ahead and insert our elastic. Make sure you don't lose the tail end of it, so when it gets close to the opening, you want to make sure that you pin it so it doesn't get lost inside. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pin this so I don't lose it. Okay, once you have both of your elastics out, go ahead and pull. Make sure that it's not twisted. You're gonna go ahead and overlap it by, I don't know, maybe a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, and you're gonna stitch this down together. Okay, once you've overlapped and stitched your elastic, you can go ahead and just pull and distribute that elastic evenly all the way around. Okay, you're gonna grab your second elastic and you're gonna insert it in this last opening here. You're gonna do the same thing we just did. If you're doing 3 elastics, you're gonna do the same thing in the middle. If you're doing your drawstring, then you're gonna get your drawstring and you're gonna insert it through one of your buttonholes and then out the other buttonhole. All right, guys, now we have inserted our elastic and drawstring if you did a drawstring. If not, you did 3 rows of elastic. The last thing for you to do here is to slip stitch your openings closed. So if you pull it, you can see the openings. You're just gonna go ahead and slip that by hand. And the very last thing for you to do is to try on your pants, make sure that you like the length of it. And if so, then all you need to do is finish off the hem of your pant legs and you are all done. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that sew along. As usual, please follow on Instagram if you're not following already, and make sure and tag me so I can see all of your amazing makes. Until next time, peace.